I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker. T.S. Eliot.
What's that from?
The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
Oh.
The whole thing is sad, but those two lines out of context are funny. I remember hearing it in the television sitcom Frasier, where the two brothers recite those two lines.
The ones I remember, because I read this fairly recently, although I don't remember the whole poem. There's something about tea and ices force the moment to its crisis or something.
Oh, yeah. Should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis?
That's one of my favorite lines. So the reason we were reading that is we were trying to test out this new voice recorder that I got. And we'll be using this for our probably semi-regular book updates, right? I'm Marian, and this is my brother Nigel. And we are currently reading Dune. So what's the history on this? We were planning to read this for a very long time, right?
Oh, yeah, ever since we saw the movie.
Even before that.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of build-up and conversation.
Yeah, so, Dune is a very long book. The copy I have is like 658 pages.
Yes, I remember I was looking through all of the Dune copies that have been made, because I know you asked for it for Christmas. And I saw this one. I don't remember what it's called or what title it is that would let the listener know what we're talking about. But it has blue edging on the pages, and the letters on the front are blue at the top, and then it goes into an orange gradient. It's just very blue and orange, and those colors go really well together.
Yes, I think I've made a couple videos featuring this in some way, shape, or form, and I can't help but show it off now and then, because this is one of my favorite Christmas gifts.
Oh, and by coincidence, so I was in the men's room at my school the other day, and just next to the door, they have these coat pegs and a little shelf above it, and some guy had hanged his motorcycle helmet onto one of these pegs, and then nestled into the helmet was an edition of Dune, the brown one with the gold letters.
Oh, the deluxe.
Yeah.
It's some kind of deluxe, because this is also a deluxe edition.
Yeah, it's one of the special ones with all the illustrations.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, so we at the beginning of November, we decided to do a chapter a month of Dune, because there's no way...
a day.
Or, yeah, a chapter a day, not a month. And it's been going pretty well, I think.
I'm enjoying it much more than I was expecting.
Yeah, me too. I will say we are both like 2 days behind already, right?
Yeah, but it's pretty easy going. I think if you miss even a whole week, I think it would be easy to catch up on.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 2 chapters we're behind on, and they're each only like 10 pages total. So like we'll be able to catch up, no problem. And really, I'm enjoying... Well, okay, so we saw the movie first, and the movie only covers the first half of the story.
Are there going to be 2 or 3 movies for this?
I think 2. I'm not sure if there's... I think it's just 2.
But the book has 3 books in it, doesn't it?
It's quite a long series. I mean...
No, I mean the first book.
Oh, you're right.
Because there's book 1, Dune, book 2, Muad'Dib, book 3, The Prophet.
You're right. Okay, so yeah, if we're looking at the contents here, and in fact, okay, so there's a couple things to note. Like he says, there's only 3 parts, or there are 3 parts in the book, but the movies may be split into 2 only. And then the whole page 607 to the end is appendixes.
Yeah.
So actually, the novel itself isn't more than 600 pages. It's still pretty long, but it's written in a very accessible style. There's not a lot of description, mostly dialogue at this point. So we're kind of going into it as movie firsters, and we're not like... I actually had plans to read this long ago, but I just didn't get to it because I don't think to read science fiction that often. But we do like watching science fiction, right? It's like
Oh, yeah.
one of our go-to genres for films.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have Ad Astra over there to rewatch
Yeah.
from the library.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of a ramble. So what are your thoughts so far on Dune? Like, what are some highlights for you thus far?
Well, let's see.
I should add that I don't know if you guys listening will consider these spoilers or not because they're from the very first chapters.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some pretty major plot points in these first chapters, so we're just going to be talking freely about them. Probably nothing major in terms of spoilers since this is the beginning of the book, but
No, I don't think there's anything really too major happening.
okay.
Even if you've read it.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say it's boring. It's yeah. Did you have any quotes or anything you wanted to share?
Well, so that was one thing that did stand out to me is how the first chapters actually cover some major scenes from the movie. I wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting there to be a lot of build up first, and so you've got a lot of the big quotes. A lot of them are actually in these first chapters, like "Fear is the mind killer." That's on page 10 of my copy. What's the other one that I really liked? "The mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience." That's in one of these first chapters. So, so far the book's been very philosophical, very political, and the science fiction is there. It's definitely there, but it's not. So far, it's just been a lot of dialogue and political stuff, I'd say.
Yes. Which has been... It's enjoyable. I don't feel... I wonder what it would be like to read this having not watched the movie.
Yeah.
Would it be overwhelming?
I think it might be. There's a lot of name dropping and a lot of concepts.
Yes.
That he just throws out on the fly.
And I heard somewhere that they cut out some significant parts for the movie. Like, for example, here the Reverend Mother mentions the Butlerian Jihad and the Orange Catholic Bible. I've heard somewhere, because I heard someone talking about this, that these are significant texts in this universe. But I don't recall hearing about those in the movie.
Not at all. At least I don't. Do you want to talk about the frame here? These introductory...
Oh, yeah. They kind of introduce the chapters.
Yeah, there's these little quotes from presumably a historian that comes later, or, well, the Princess Irulan, whom one presumes is a historian. She kind of introduces each part with these quotes.
Yeah. And it seems to be taken from a children's book in the future.
Do you want to, summarize the beginning? Because we haven't actually explained what the characters are or anything.
Yeah. I'm very bad at these things.
Oh, it's okay. We're just doing it by ear, I mean. How would you describe the beginning?
You know, it's easier to describe something if you know what's happening next, I feel, because then you know what's important.
Oh, yeah.
What would I say about the beginning? We're introduced to Paul Atreides and the Bene Gesserit and the Harkonnens. So I guess... Oh, and we have some introduction to the Emperor secondhand, and the way the relationships between the various houses and the Emperor and the Chom Company works, which is interesting. So it's sort of feudal, monarcho-corporatist.
Yeah, that was something that jumped out to me as well. And I believe this is inferred in the film, and yet the film comes across to me as a little more Star Wars-like, in that you've got these singular figures that are, when they talk about the Emperor in the Dune movie, he seems to be implied to have absolute power. I don't know. Maybe that was just my misinterpretation. But when you read about it in the book, it sounds like there's actually different factions that actually have more, like, equal power. Or
Yeah, it's more like I remember Duke Leto Atreides in the movie used the word fief to describe his new planet. And that, of course, made me think of the French system, where there were different lords over different regions, but then the king with a central power in Paris.
Right. And yet what we're presented with in the book is a little more fractured. It's like you've got the emperor and that hierarchy, but then you've got this company.
And then the houses apparently working against each other.
And the guild, whatever that...
The guild with the Bene Gesserit?
They mentioned this guild at some point.
That sounds familiar, yes.
That would imply, I guess... I don't know.
The great thing about ebooks is that you can do word searches.
I'm finding that to be a very tricky part about the hard copy, is not being able to search for things.
The Spacing Guild?
Yeah.
And let's see. She blamed it on space travel and association with that abominable Spacing Guild and its secretive ways.
So, yeah, we're kind of thrown into this political situation. Paul Atreides is the main character. He's the son of Duke Leto and Duke Leto's mistress, Jessica. And he's being trained up by his father, obviously, to become the next Duke, but also by his mother in the magic that her set has, the Bene Gesserits.
Yes.
So that's a lot of information to convey in just a few chapters. Yeah. What are some differences we noticed? We were talking about this the other day. Differences between the film and the movie thus far. Oh, I remember. We were talking about the fact that in this book, about the impending trap.
Oh, yes.
So in the movie, Duke Leto... Well, so...
Oh, I remember.
This could be a spoiler. This could be quite a big spoiler, everyone. So
yeah.
Just a heads up.
Yes, there's a part where Jessica says or thinks to the Reverend Mother, is there any hope for him? And the Reverend Mother says, there's no hope for the father.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing the trap on Arrakis.
Yeah. So the trap on Arrakis is completely foreshadowed. Everybody seems to know about it in the book. In the movie...
Like an open secret.
Yeah. Now, in the movie, it seemed to me there was foreshadowing, but it wasn't obvious to me that everyone knew they were walking into a death trap.
But I thought, wasn't there a lot of searching for things? Like that character, Thufir... What was his name?
Thufir Hawat.
Yeah. He was searching the buildings and the grounds for traps, and there was a spy left over who tried to kill Paul.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
And we've heard about the Sardaukar.
Yes.
Who are going to join the Harkonnens.
That's right.
In the attack.
Yeah, which, again, in the movie, this knowledge is a little delayed.
Yes.
So it feels more traumatic when it actually happens.
And I think the significance of that is more obvious in the book, because I think Piter, Duke Harkonnen's assistant, says that they will be dressed as Harkonnens, which I don't think they are in the movie.
Right.
And this is important to maintain the Emperor's neutrality, apparent neutrality, in not siding with one house over another. Because he says that if the other houses got wise to this, then everyone would rise up against the Harkonnens and the Emperor, because then who would be safe?
You're right. In the movie, the
Sardaukar,
they drop in with their high-tech, like, uniforms and stuff. And that's one of the best parts of the movie, actually. It's chilling. It's kind of weird, because this is one of those books where he's just giving everything away at the beginning.
Although I like it, he said I'm definitely curious about what's going to happen next.
Yeah. It's an interesting way of telling the story.
Because as obvious as it is that the Atreides are being set up for failure. The challenge for them is to somehow thwart the thwarting, to see if they can either beat or outlast their circumstances.
Yeah. I think it was in this last chapter I read that basically they don't really have a choice even, which is very sad. Like, they have to do what the Emperor says.
Yeah.
Even if it means they know it's a disaster waiting to happen. The other difference we noticed that just came back to mind was how Paul perceives the Bene Gesserits and the Reverend Mother that leads them. In the movie, the relationship between them is a little more ambiguous because we're not privy to Paul's inner thoughts the entire time. Whereas in the book, it's very clear that he can't stand them. And he's very angry at them, in fact.
Yes.
Which will be interesting to see if that continues throughout the rest of the story, or if it's just him being young and, rebellious or whatever. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up here? That's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I mean, there are the dreams.
Oh.
And we're given 2 clues about the person in the dream, who of course is a Fremen, that he has to explain what seagulls are to her because she isn't familiar with water and water animals. He says at the end of one of these chapters how ironic that a particular verse or quote should come to him. If wishes were fishes, we would all have nets, or something like that.
Yeah. Yes. So we're already getting the dreams, even in the book, in the first chapter. So it's kind of funny, but I guess my takeaway from this so far is if you've watched the movie, then getting into the book's not as hard as I would have expected. Like, you'll recognize a lot of the things right off the bat. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing. I can't wait to get to the point where we've gone past the movie, because then it'll be all new territory in every sense of the word.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Maybe I'll just close reading this poem.
Yes.
One of Gurney Halleck's tone poems for sad times. I remember salt smoke from a beach fire and shadows under the pines. Solid, clean, fixed. Seagulls perched at the tip of land, white upon green. And a wind comes through the pines to sway the shadows. The seagulls spread their wings, lift, and fill the sky with screeches. And I hear the wind blowing across our beach and the surf. And I see that our fire has scorched the seaweed. That's a poem about Kaladin, probably. Well, this was great. Thanks for joining me, Nigel.
Oh, thank you, Marion.
And we will have more updates on Dune in the future. Bye, everyone.
Bye.